Hey, everyone. We are going to get started here in just a minute. I had to reboot my computer, so we got a little bit of a late start today. Hope everyone is doing well. We're going to do this webinar style. So if you guys have questions or anything like that, you can drop them in chat boxes, raise your hand, however you guys want to do it. I'm open for it. We are going to be joined today by the amazing Sarah Hebb. She is with Movement Mortgage and she is a lender. So we're going to talk about a lot of the things with DSCR loans, and we are going to have Sarah here answer questions for us, walk us through some basics, what their products look like, all of the things. So this will be recorded in all of our training videos. So we're going to be doing this every single Thursday, 10:30 Eastern Standard Time, every single Thursday, different topics each week. So like next week is social media. So every Thursday, different topic. We will record and these will be posted to my YouTube channel so that you guys can make sure that you can watch back. If you want to share it with agents you think it would benefit, the more the merrier. This is a broker agnostic training. So much of the time, we will not talk about brokerages. We will not talk about tools or anything like that. This is solely for you guys to learn and be the best agents that you can. So without further ado, my name is Alexis Hughes. If you are joining me and don't know, I am in the Charlotte, North Carolina market. I rank top 3% in our market, and I've been licensed for 8 years, and I am the founder of the Elite Collective Coaching Group. That is also on Facebook. It should be in your invite if you'd like to follow along and share. Sarah, why don't you give yourself an introduction to everybody at home and tell them a little about you?
Hey everyone, it's so great to be here and in the presence of some wonderful humans in our industry. I'm Sarah Hebb, and I've been in the mortgage space for about 12 years now and have helped several types of different clients as far as investors, most specifically using DSCR loans in the most recent several months. They've been a hot topic in the past couple years, and you all need to know about them and how to help your clients.
Awesome. Guys, I'm going to drop Sarah's contact info in the chat box. Go ahead and save that number because you're going to want to use her as a resource. So without further ado, I'd like for this to be interactive, guys. So I'll ask questions. I'll give you guys a minute if you want to answer. If you don't want to answer, it's totally fine. Not everybody is comfortable. But I'd like to ask the audience right now, who knows what a DSCR loan actually is? Like, what does that acronym stand for? If you guys want to drop that in the chat box or raise your hand, ask to talk, however you want to answer it is fine. And if you guys don't want to answer, totally fine too, because I'm going to tell you what it is. Does anyone know what that DSCR stands for? All right. Looks like you guys are going to learn some stuff today. So our DSCR, it stands for debt service coverage ratio. So the purpose of a DSCR loan is mostly for real estate investors. But as Sarah mentioned, in the recent months, we have found that someone that's not a seasoned investor is actually starting to take advantage of these loans, whether it be they want to build their equity, their net worth, they want to have a vacation home, all of the things. So Sarah, tell me a little bit about what you're seeing with clientele right now that are coming to you and they're asking about the DSCR. What situations are they typically in, and what are they trying to accomplish?
Yeah, so the great thing about a DSCR loan that I have come across with clients recently is they are coming to me not as seasoned investors. And that is a huge perk for this DSCR loan. And you'll hear me use this in Alexis too, the DSCR constantly. But the deal is so many other non-traditional lending products require that you are a seasoned investor. And so we have investors coming to us, first-time investors saying, you know what, I want to purchase a property and rent it out using long-term rental income or short-term rental income. And we can use either projections, both short-term and long-term rental income. However, it's really important that we know how to talk our clients through what type of goals do they have. And then we walk them through the different types of loans within the DSCR product line. And I can help with that and talk more about that. But essentially, we take rental income, we divide it by the monthly mortgage payment, the total monthly mortgage payment, the PITIA. And if the property brings in more than it costs to own that home each month, then it's a win for the lender and it's a win for your client.
Awesome. So where I see this coming into play a lot is a lot of agents that are not in like North Carolina and South Carolina. Maybe they're in Ohio or California or whatever, but they want to do an investment property here. But we know as real estate agents on our tax returns, we write off everything. We won't send the IRS on us, but we know that our debt to income typically is not going to allow us to purchase a second home in most cases as self-employed individuals. And so where I find it really cool is it is important to know it is not your personal income that is qualifying you on a debt to income ratio basis. It's the income generated from that property. And Sarah, you touched on something that I think a lot of agents, when they're looking at investment loans, DSCR, they don't realize, hey, look, it's not just principal and interest that we're looking at for the payment. You've got your taxes, you've got your insurance, and you've got your HOA as well. So all of those are factoring in. And I think what we have to look at as agents, when we're putting all that together, we can't be online. Correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, because I made this mistake as a rookie. We can't be online playing with that mortgage calculator and telling our clients, hey, this is great. This is a great cash flowing property for you. Tell us a little bit about how we should be working with you as a lender with our clients to make sure the properties we're identifying truly meet that DSCR, because we don't want to drive you crazy and we don't want to burn out our clients either.
Sure. Yeah. So, first and foremost, it's not always about calling every lender and finding out what is their rate. Yes, rate is important. However, understanding the client's goals for this property and understanding the numbers that back into that. How much money do we have to put down? Can we put 15% down? Can we put 20 or 25? When you think of a DSCR loan, again, it's not a traditional loan. Therefore, we are working with investors. I may be an investor. I have an in-house investor product, but then I have 10 other investors that I work with, and we all get to write our own rules on these types of loans. So the great thing is talking to the client, getting to know exactly what they have available, and then backing that into the property so we can pick the right DSCR loan product for them. And it's not always about the rate. Again, it's important. However, it's not everything.
Well, and I do want to point out too is what one lender may say no to, another lender may say yes, because exactly to your point, it is lender specific, the rules and qualifications. Some lenders are going to want a 660 credit score. Some are going to be okay with the 620. Some are going to require 20% down. Some want 25% down. So your number one toolbox or tool in your toolbox when working with these types of clients as an agent is to know what your lenders are offering. I know we get invited to coffee all the time from our lender partners, right? But we turn it down. And that is doing a disservice to your clients because you've got to know what they all offer. That's one reason I do love Movement, because their range of products, oh my, phenomenal. There's not been too many times where Movement didn't offer a product that could help my clients. So guys, shameless plug here for Movement. Keep that in mind. No, they're not paying any of my ad spend or anything. I'm saying it because I love them. Uh, so let me ask you this, because I think obviously we're not financial advisors as agents and stuff like that, but we do have enough knowledge to make us a little bit dangerous. And what I mean by that is I have some very new investors that are coming in. They're putting these homes in their personal name, and they're being told that, oh, we can't do it in an LLC name. And I think it's important to know whether a lender will allow that or not, an LLC. But number two, it's important to educate your clients from a liability standpoint. If they're putting it in their personal name and you're going to have renters in there and everything like that, you're opening yourself up to be personally sued. Whereas if you're owning it in an LLC's name, the LLC is what gets sued and has the liability. So how do you guys, from a lending standpoint, determine whether an LLC can purchase the property versus it having to go in the investor's actual name?
Yeah, so different lenders are going to require different guidelines as far as how can we take title of this property. So specifically, it's a positive, beautiful thing about a DSCR loan is that you can take title of the property in an LLC. However, title and loan are separate. So if you come to me, Alexis, and say, Sarah, I'm going to buy this investment property, I'm going to use short-term rental income, and we start talking about how we're going to set this property up, you yourself are going to apply for the loan using your name and your credit. We don't need any of your household income. Okay. Now you are going to sign a personal guarantee, which states that, yes, you as the individual are going to agree to pay the mortgage. However, the title is going to be in your LLC. And that's a beautiful thing because it doesn't show up on your credit report for, let's say, next property.
Exactly. Now, I think the big thing that people have to understand about the DSCR loans is, okay, you may have the down payment for this one, but how do you get the down payment for the next one? Because typically we want this to be a snowball effect. Talk to us a little bit about some ways that you have seen clients utilize their existing investment property in order to purchase that second or third one.
Sure. So certainly cash out refinances are very popular. Okay. And so you can certainly use that for down payment on another property. You can use a home equity line of credit on your primary or secondary home, sometimes investment homes too, depending on the lender requirements. As well as what I've also seen is we have, there are some financial advisors out there who do have some in-house specialty loan products that you can pull equity from that loan product per se. It's almost like a line of credit that they offer at maybe a 5% interest rate. And it's cash into your bank immediately. And we can use that to purchase a property using a DSCR loan as well, or another type of loan.
Now, if we're utilizing that route, is that payment being factored into qualifications, or is it's yours, you're personal, as long as this property pays the PITIA, we're good?
That's correct. The second
Okay.
to your second question there, we don't count it in your monthly debt obligation. Now, again, it depends on the investor, right? So again, going back to let's talk through, let's get all the details. What are we hoping to do? Where's the down payment coming from? And then we'll guide you and help you with selecting the right product for your needs.
And to that point, I want to talk about the different goals of an investor because I think as a real estate agent, I know me personally, I'm like, oh, if this doesn't cash flow, it's not a good investment. I'm not even going to send it to them. And it's important to realize, guys, that some investors do not care about the cash flow. They are literally just building their net worth. As long as they're breaking even and that property is paying for itself, they consider it a good deal. So it's really important. Buyer consults, guys, buyer consults. Get to know what their goals are, what they're looking for. In a perfect world, every property would cash flow. We'd be rolling in dough and have residual passive income, paying for our yachts and mansions. But that's just not reality. But having that net worth and this home, this investment property, paying for itself, paying itself off over time, sometimes is the goal of someone. You also have to take into account that lender specific, right? But the investor may be fine if this property is barely breaking even or doesn't break even. They may be okay with that because their strategy may be, oh, I'm going to flip this property, get it nice and renovated. We're going to add some more sleeping spaces. They may see some target ROI that you're not seeing and they're okay with. So doing that buyer consult for an investor looking to do a DSCR loan is going to look a lot different than it is. Tell me how many bedrooms and bathrooms you want and what school districts do you need when we're talking to a typical buyer. So after this course, what I'll do, I have everybody's email. I have a little checklist that when I'm talking with DSCR clients, these are the questions I'm asking them. That way, when I go to Sarah and she's asking me about their goals and everything before we make the introduction, I have every single piece of information I need so that she can look in her toolbox and find the best product to help them. And she's prepared when she's talking to them. Um, One of the things, and Sarah, I don't know if you see this with agents a lot, but one of the things that I see agents doing is kind of like what newer agents do with home buyers that maybe they're qualified for 600,000, but in reality, that would make them pretty house poor, and it's probably not a good idea to go that high. So I have seen where agents will say, "Oh, this is a great investment property, right?" And the the numbers make it a break even. When you pull the financials, the reports on what's projected to for the property to bring in and everything, on paper, it looks like a great idea, but they're not factoring in a couple of different things that I've noticed and looking at properties for clients myself, I've seen. You got to remember, guys, like just because it pays the mortgage and the interest and the taxes and all of that, what about the utilities? What about the management fees? What about the cleaning fees? It is really important that you're having those conversations with your clients because that could that could really add up. And to that point, when you see a property being advertised, this is what made me want to do this class because I went through 25 listings, all of them DSCR qualified, cash flowing investment property. When I started asking for the financials, number one, half of the agents didn't even have the financials. They were sending me their booking calendar from VRBO. And I'm like, that's not financials. That doesn't tell me anything. Your financials, request them from the agent because half of the properties out there being advertised this way do not qualify in any shape, form, or fashion. So on those financials, you need to be seeing what are their expenses. And you'll have some agents say, well, we haven't had any repairs. We're not talking about just repairs. Of course, we want to know that. I want to know what your average utility expenses are each month. What have you paid in cleaning fees? Did you pass that off to the buyer? It really needs to be very detailed as you can possibly get so that you can give that information to your client and they can prepare. Another thing that I have seen is an agent will qualify a home as great short-term rental investment. And it makes sense. The numbers are making sense. But then when you realize, wait, my client's not going to take this property as a primary residence, which means the taxes aren't going to be what they're paying. All of a sudden, that throws your ratios out. So making sure you know specific municipal and county rules on whether or not taxes increase for investors. I know in South Carolina, if it's not your primary residence, you're paying North Carolina taxes for sure. So keeping that in mind. Also, don't rely on Realist. Like Realist Tax Search, I don't know for everybody watching here in the Charlotte market, we have Canopy and we have Realist. And you can go in and you can look at what the taxes were and it'll say like 2024. Never just rely on that. Definitely go to the county's tax bill search and look up the most recent tax bill they've received. That is going to give you the best data for what the taxes actually are. And to that point, Sarah, if we are looking at new construction, for instance, and we're wanting to qualify this, how should we estimate the taxes to see if it's a good property or not?
So we need to talk with the builder and we need to understand what are we looking at as far as current rates and then future rates once the property is built and valued in full. Because previous years, what are they going to be looking at, Alexis? What do the builders usually use for property tax purposes?
Oh gosh, the land value.
Exactly.
They're giving the land value 100%. So on that note, like if you guys are looking at a house, typically what is going to happen is the attorney is going to collect taxes based off of your purchase price. It's not going to be off an assessed value because it hasn't been assessed yet. And if that is the case, it is important that you're going to your lender and you're saying, hey guys, I need to, like, does this work? And again, that's why it's important to have someone like Sarah that knows DSCR loans, that knows how to do this, that is going to be able to help you run those numbers. I can't stress that enough. Having a really good partner there with you makes all the difference, all of the difference. The next thing that I want to touch on is when you guys are looking at a listing and it's in an area that could do short term, right? it is important that you're running both scenarios. So our job as agents are to figure out what the highest and best use of this property is and then market it appropriately, right? So when you're an agent and you're running the numbers, obviously do your CMA, make sure it's going to appraise, so on and so forth. But it's always a good idea in areas where short-term rentals have potential, are very strong, like the beach, the mountains, the lake. It's always a good idea to run projections for it as well and have those readily available. Sarah, I don't know what you guys use, but I know like I use AirDNA. That, I mean, is I love it. Like I pay for it, but it's not that expensive. And that it allows me to put in the address. It shows me the expected vacancy rate. It pulls the rental comps, everything. From a lender standpoint, are you guys using AirDNA or is an appraiser going out?
Yes, I'm so glad you asked that. So, actually, the way we look at these projected rental incomes, long or short, is we do use AirDNA in our underwriting team. I spoke with our underwriter 3 weeks ago who says, I use this and I can submit that to our investors to then showcase what type of numbers we're looking at as far as projected rental income. However, the lender is also going to send out an appraiser. And guess what? That appraiser needs to know the market. And that appraiser will fill out a 1007 form, which is long-term rental income. However, so they're going to look at long-term rental income regardless, but they're also going to look at short-term rental income as well. And those appraisers have to know what they are doing. And therefore, you have to work with a lender who has solid relationships and great appraisers on their panel.
Yeah.
That is key because that can hold up a deal. If they don't know how to correctly calculate what those projections are, it's going to add 2-3 weeks in the process, or they're going to jack up the price of that appraisal. And if you need to close quickly, which we can with a DSCR loan, that's key because most, not always, but a lot of times you're going to be purchasing an investment property from an investor who needs to get that home off the books.
Exactly. And then to that point, it's important to know like right now we are going in our market, like for the lakes and the beach, we are going into off season. So I think it's important, and I don't know how you feel, Sarah, or whatever. I think it's important that, hey, I don't care what you have booked necessarily. I want to see what's booked in the future because that money is typically held in an account and at closing, that's going to transfer to you. So if they have nothing booked for the next 7 months and there's no money in an account that's going to transfer to you at closing, there's many reasons why this could occur, but you've got to prepare your client. Hey, look, this is not going to pay for itself. The money doesn't just magically poof out of thin air. You've got to be prepared to carry the cost of this until you start generating some new bookings. So that's important to note because yes, an investor is going to get a great deal in off season, but do they have the reserves to actually pay for it throughout that off season? That's something really important to keep in mind. Do you run into that a lot, Sarah?
Most of the DSCR loans that I've done have been about half in Florida and then half in the Carolinas. So listen, going back to the DSCR ratio, there are certain ratios that we have to look at, or of course, that we're going to obtain from that property. But there's a DSCR of 1.0, which means we're breaking even. There's a DSCR of 1.0 or higher for said property, which means we're cash flowing. And then a DSCR less than 1.0 means negative cash flow. And we can still underwrite those loans or those properties and still provide a DSCR loan with less than 1% for a DSCR ratio. However, it's going to be a little bit higher of an interest rate. We're going to be looking at some other factors there. So again, going back to what you mentioned, making sure we know and we're looking at all areas of this property itself and you being educated as the agent and working with a thorough, detailed lender. We love that. And we love working with people like you, Alexis, because you are so thorough and you are so detailed. And that is what is important because we're out here educating our clients and making sure we're doing best by them so that they can continue to build generational wealth.
100%. And I have a question because I've run into Some lenders won't do short term, they only do long term. Some will not do it for projected income if it doesn't already have a history. So you mentioned that, hey, it's really specific to the deal, but it sounds like, hey, we can do both as long as the numbers jive. But are there types of properties that you guys are just like no go for DSCR? Like duplexes, quadplexes, townhomes? Are there any restrictions on the property type as long as it's meeting zoning guidelines?
So what I can tell you is that we do, and let's be clear, this is for only investment properties. This is not for primary or secondary purchases, okay? We do allow condos, we do allow townhomes, we do as well allow duplexes, triplexes, and above. I don't know the answer to that. I'll look into that. I haven't come across that.
And to that point, we'll find out about triplexes and above, and then I'll edit the description on the YouTube video with that answer so everybody knows. When you guys are qualifying like duplexes, for instance, are you qualifying it based off of each unit, what it would bring in, what it's projected to bring in? Or are you like, nope, we're only going to go off of one unit? And could potentially the person utilizing the DSCR rent the one unit, live in the other?
Hmm. I need to get back to you on that because I'm not sure about that because what my gut tells me is that we cannot be living in one side of the duplex. I will let you know though. I'll look into it. I'll talk with our head of underwriting.
Yeah. And I've had lenders say absolutely not. If you're living in this property at all, it doesn't qualify for DSCR. We can't do it. So that definitely is something to keep in mind because I ran across an agent. Well, I don't even know if they were an agent. You know how we see all these TikTok gurus that tell you how to game the system, and they're like, use DSCR and have a duplex, and it'll pay for your house and this and that. And I'm like, no, honey, I'm pretty sure you're going to have to use traditional financing for that because you can't have it as your primary residence. So definitely interesting to know. Let me throw you for another loop because this is another one. Someone was like, I have a house that I want to buy and it has an ADU. If I subdivide the house from the ADU, can I do a DSCR loan for this ADU?
Mm,
So
I
they
have
want
not
to
come
buy the
across that.
house, numbers to numbers. So the house and the ADU together on this big parcel, 500,000. We're just going to throw some numbers out there. They want to pull the house out, use a traditional loan to buy the house for like 350 and then purchase the ADU with DSCR separate.
I've not come across that, Alexis, and I don't believe, but I will let you know and I'll find out.
And we're going to find out. And this is why you guys brainstorm. Because imagine that, guys, if Sarah comes back and says, yep, we can do that we can do that. Well, that takes a client that maybe can only qualify for 350 and now allows them to buy a $500,000 house that could potentially cash flow for them. So definitely like talking with your lender and getting creative. And I swear I'm going to get these answers and pop them in that description because some of these questions I'm like, I just thought of this off the top of my head. So, all right, guys, we are coming up on 11. I promise I wouldn't take up too much of everyone's time today. I really love these trainings being quick, concise, to the point, giving you the information, and then letting you ask questions. So right now, I'm going to open it up to anyone that has any questions. I always am awkward at this state. So if you have questions, raise your hand, drop them in the chat box. And if you don't, we are done for the day. And thank you for joining us. And hopefully you guys will come back next Thursday, 10:30 a.m. We are doing social media training. We'll do some screen sharing. I'm going to show you how I set up ads, how my listings on average get over 100,000 views their first 4 days on the market. And I'm going to teach you some psychology behind what you're doing, why you're doing it, and what you should expect from it when it comes to social media. So with that, any questions, guys? All right. I think we're good. All right, Sarah, thank you for joining me. I hope you guys have a good day and have an amazing weekend, y'all.
Thanks, Alexis. You are a gift. I appreciate you and all that you do to give to our community. And listen, I am also going to send out a cheat sheet for DSCR loans, and I will get back to you on all of those questions, those couple questions. Have a great day, everybody.
Have a good one, everyone.